Good evening. Welcome to the Canby City Council regular meeting for August 15th, 2018. If you please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, I thank you for so many things to be thankful for. I thank you for the leaders up here on the dais, and I thank you for this great community that we live in. I thank you personally for the support and outreach that I have had with the passing of a very, very close aunt of cancer this morning. I ask for just prayers for my family as they go through this, and I can't be there to help them with them being 2,000 miles away. Again, thank you for your love and devotion, and I know that she is in a better place. Please look over our city, keep us all safe during Fair Week, keep the incidents to a minimum, and I pray for cooler weather here over the next couple of days. I ask these in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to move into our Canby Main Street annual report, and here to present is our new Economic Development Director, Jamie Stickler.
That's me.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, everybody.
Your first presentation in your new capacity.
Yes, about my old capacity. Main Street will always be something that is near and dear to my heart. So the Main Street mission is to carry out the urban renewal plan to ensure economic vitality of the downtown commercial district, revitalize buildings and street environments, and enhance Canby's identity through the promotion of downtown. I think that picture does a pretty good job of the promotion of downtown. It is based off of the Main Street 4-point approach, which focuses on promotion, economic vitality, organization, and design, and I'll go through each one of those points a little bit more. To kick off with promotion, basically promotion is marketing, events, branding, getting people to come downtown and to gather, to know about the wonderful things that you have. We do that through Canby First Friday, May through December. We have year-round laminated signage in the businesses, targeted Facebook advertising, posters in our participating businesses, and then we've brought in vendors, and we've done vendors in the park. Most recently, we haven't had vendors in the park, so what we've been doing is of connecting vendors or outside organizations with some of our local businesses. And a great example of that is last First Friday in August, Todos, I think is how you would say that. They went to the Canby Public Library and set up a booth so that they could talk about the services that they provide to, I think it's children and families. And then from there, actually, the Camarina, who is the outreach coordinator, she's going to be helping to get some vendors in the park that provide family services, whether that's daycare, small community preschool, or bigger services that we can provide, so even maybe the Canby Public Library. We had the big night out street dance. Last year it was on August 25th from 6 to 11. This coming year, just a little plug, August 24th from 6 to 11. It's the 4th annual. This year we will have music by Big Yellow Taxi and the Kurt Van Meter Band. Last year Kurt Van Meter had kicked us off, and we decided to bump him up to our, transition him to our headliner this year, and hopefully that will continue where we transition people through. We have free kids activities, vendors that serve food, or sell food rather, beverages, adult beverages, and then we have a whole kids zone, and Canby Cares has come in last year and they're coming back this year to run that kids zone with free activities. Then we bring in bouncy houses, the game truck, climbing wall, all of the fun things that give kids a reason to not bug their parents while their parents dance. We do the Downtown Spectacular Village every year. It was on Tuesday, October 31st, and local businesses were encouraged to participate, and then we always have some businesses that come and trunk or treat. A great example of that is Hot Rod DreamWorks. They come every year with a different theme. I don't think she's ever done the same theme twice in a row, and I can't say the same for my Halloween costume. The Canby Fire District comes out, and the police department, they patrol, but then they'll come out and provide candy for the kids. They run our Main Street booth right down in front of the old City Hall. Light Up the Night occurred on December 1st, and we had a really special year this year. We had invested in some more effects and some more lights. It's a tree lighting, ground effects in Waite Park. Our fire department is involved, the chamber, CTV5, the police department, Public Works. And then we do lights all on Northwest First Avenue, which just helps to know that there's a there, which is something we hear about often. The Oregon Trail Pitch Pipers came and sang, and then we have Santa and Mrs. Claus that come and they take pictures with every kid that would like to take pictures, and they don't care how late that is. And I think that that's a really special thing, but what more would you expect from Santa and Mrs. Claus? The Canby Independence Day celebration, which is near and dear to my heart. Obviously, it occurs on July 4th. We have a parade, street fair, car show, live music, children's activities. The fire department comes out and does an obstacle course. The Historical Society does a pancake breakfast. We just really try and make it something for everyone, and I think that the amount of people that come out really shows that we've succeeded at that. We do a free kids zone with bouncy houses, a game truck, face painting. The free kids zone in both the Independence Day and the Big Night Out are really important to me. I think that every child should be able to come and have the same experience, as opposed to, someone suggested once if I had them pay for their turn in the bouncy house $1, that I'd be able to pay for the entire event. But I think that being able to have that experience and have that fun, create a young tradition of coming downtown and having a great time is something that I think is very important. This year, including city staff, we had 46 volunteers, 64 street vendors, which included food vendors, beverage vendors, and nonprofit vendors. We had 35 classic cars, which was a little lower than previous years, but if you remember, it was pretty overcast in the morning, and if you have those expensive classic cars, the last thing that you want is to bring them out in the rain. So those were down a little bit, but still everybody had a lot of fun. And then this year, our tie-dye t-shirt booth, that is something that we do sell. That was up by, I think, about a third. We sold 77 tie-dye t-shirts, and they were raring to go before the booth was even open. We have Betty Crawford, who comes and runs that booth every year, and she's just magical with it. We do marketing materials like our visitors and newcomers brochure, website updates, social media updates, a weekly e-newsletter, and then created a retail recruitment brochure that just helps to promote some of the great things that Canby has in a packet, so we could give that to potential business owners, potential developers, even property owners who are looking to fill their spots, so that they had a tool in hand that has our city contact information so they know who to talk to. And we've seen some success in people asking for that and knowing that it's available. One of our new initiatives has been tourism. So there is a new tourism website, visitcanby.com. We also have a Facebook page and Instagram account that's just getting going. So if you were to go onto Facebook or Instagram and search Visit Canby, that is something that you can find, and we have contracted that out with Full Bloom Digital, and Dan Kinney is just doing an amazing job of getting out to the different events and different things that are happening and getting good photos, and so please go and like that page. The transient room tax was effective July 1st, and then we also ordered wayfinding signage, which is signage that actually helps you find your way. So some of the things that we identified, we used the help of the tourism committee, which is a chamber committee, to identify some of the things that they thought, because when you bring more people to the table, while I might not ever go to Waite Park, which is a bad example because I love Waite Park, but I might not go there, or I might not know to go there, having more people say, have you thought about highlighting this or highlighting that? And I was able to receive a Willamette Valley Visitors Association grant to help supplement those costs. So that was something that was exciting, that they saw the value in that, because they received more requests than they had money for. So I'm thrilled that they helped to fund that. Economic vitality, it's really about recruiting and retaining businesses and making sure that things are balanced and exciting in your downtown district. So we do business and property owner outreach, that targeted outreach, face-to-face business contact, topic-related outreach. So, if we have a new business and we want to talk to them about participating in First Friday, which could potentially bring customers into their business, doing that topic-related rather, and then also new business outreach. We market available space. We actually have very few openings. Some of our openings are big, and so it feels like we have a lot. We do have a new building, and we're working with that property owner, with other property owners, opening up for the former library also to try and to fill that space. I think that we're at a time where Canby's changing, and that people are starting to really, really pay attention, and that I think that we're gonna fill those up, and I'm excited to see who comes in to help complement the businesses that we have already. Several new downtown businesses. So the Book Nook, which is one of my favorites because people talk about that books are dead. Nobody does books. She just had to move into a new space at the end of July in the Graham building. So she specializes in reselling previously used books and gifts. And I'm going to butcher this, La Divina Providencia. Yeah, close. A grocery store that went into a vacant space on Northwest 1st where the liquor store had been. Gwen's Coffee House down on 2nd. Features coffee, lunches, pastries, wine, beer, and more. Secret Garden Floral also opened up in the Graham building, and she has gift options as well as floral delivery. She also moved to a different space in the Graham building to get more exposure. I think that shows a lot of that two businesses opened up and then moved to different spaces to really capitalize on the market that we have in town. Sunshine Athletics opened up on Northwest 2nd, and that's kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. Victory Point Property Group also opened on North Holly Street, and they're connected to Gwen's Coffee House. The Dahlia Project in Canby Civic Block just recently opened with 69 market rate apartments. It's move-in ready. They have 4 retail spaces along Northwest 2nd Avenue, ranging from 1,200 square feet to 3,000 square feet. And then the developer also purchased the historic City Hall and Old Police Building. She has plans to renovate both buildings. The historic City Hall has a local designation, so the exterior will not be amended, just the interior. Organization establishes consensus and really is basically working with other organizations, businesses, those kinds of things. So first, recognizing our downtown or community partners with our downtown merchants, the Chamber of Commerce, Canby Public Library, other Main Street programs in the community or in the state of Oregon where we can share ideas and information. The Canby Kiwanis, our Heritage and Landmark Commission, the Historical Society, Arts and Culture Advisory Council, and many more. I mean, I've never met an organization or a person that I haven't at least tried to make friends with. So those partnerships continue to grow. Our Oregon Main Street Network offers quarterly meetings, networking and idea sharing opportunities, a listserv to bounce ideas back and forth. I attended the National Main Street Conference in Kansas City, Missouri with the mayor and Council Parker. One of the things that really stuck with me was their keynote speaker, which really talked about creating vibrant and healthy cities, and he talked about this 880 project, which is that if you can make a city that is viable and safe for an 8-year-old or an 80-year-old, then anybody that is older or younger or in between will be safe and have things to do in their community. He was a great speaker. The conference really focused on placemaking in small downtowns, creative events and promotions, activating spaces. So when you think about, we're going to do that with the big night out. We're going to activate a space that isn't usually used that way, but it brings people, gets people used to coming downtown. And activating spaces, people, organizations, and businesses. And so the reason Kansas City was picked is that it has activated spaces. Its Power and Light District is incredible. They really took what was a dying area and infused it with life and culture and food, and they've got outdoor theaters, and it's really incredible if you ever have the chance to go. The Heritage and Landmark Commission has 7 members with unique backgrounds. They have local landmarks oversight, and then they administer our grants, so the Certified Local Government Grant and the Oregon Historic Cemeteries Grant. The Certified Local Government Grant was awarded in early 2017. We worked on a local registry project where we're trying to identify the the buildings and sites that are important to Canby and really promote that. Like we've done our Women's Heritage Trail is a good example of how we would do that in the future. We updated our Exploring Community Connections brochure and had it also translated to Spanish. Canby has a 23% Spanish or Latino population, so making sure that our brochures can be read by everybody. We did some more intensive level research, which is really the building blocks for all of the projects that we do, and then board education. The Women's Heritage Trail was launched March 22nd here at the library. Our featured speaker was Governor Barbara Roberts, and then we had other speakers. The mayor spoke. We had an essay contest with all of the children in all of the schools, and you could write in English or Spanish. And then we had 2 of the, I think, 11 winners speak. And it was really a partnership with the Heritage and Landmark Commission, Canby Kiwanis, the Canby Public Library, and the Canby School District. We're in the cemetery business, so we did another cemetery cleanup, or actually 2 this last year. We received the Oregon Historic Cemetery Grant for Baker Prairie Phase 2, which was the second half of the Baker Prairie Cemetery that we had not dealt with in the first time, which was repairing the headstones. Then we had a cleaning, and we partnered with a Solve Cleanup Day. And then Solve has been seeing so much of a response from communities that are interested in doing cleanup projects that they had a cemetery cleanup day on Saturday, May 12th, and we had, I think, about 20 volunteers go to Zion Cemetery, which is also another historic cemetery that we have within our city. The Community Partnership Program grant was awarded in spring of 2017. That's administered through the Canby Chamber, and we have marketed with our Canby Independence Day celebration, as well as the Newcomer and Visitors Guide that we had seen before. Design really means just the look and the feel of the downtown, the physical landscape of downtown. So our downtown flower program, our flower baskets come from SMK Nursery in Hubbard, and we have devoted downtown maintenance. And there's if you walk downtown, there's an array of landscaping on Northwest 1st, 2nd, and Inouye Park. And so those are a picture of some of our public works guys hanging our flower baskets, which are have been above and beyond this year, fantastically beautiful. So they are really proud of that program, and I know that we are as well. Facade improvement program. This is some projects that are underway. Lauren Bell on Northwest 1st. If you haven't been by his building, it's really incredible. The Hostetler warehouse on Southwest 4th. Those are both underway. And then recently approved was the Berg property that you can see right there. And actually, I walked out of Gwen's coffee shop today, and they've already started to tear down the former facade on the former pregnancy care center. So it is moving along. He hopes to be done, I think, in a matter of weeks, but I could be quoting him incorrectly. But he's hitting the ground running, I should say. Our library sculpture on the outside wall of the library along Northwest 2nd. It was a committee formed by the arts and culture members, the chamber director, and city staff. Our theme was growing, learning, and giving. We received 3 submissions from local artists. It was a tough project. The wall itself is 45 feet long by 15 feet tall. So to be able to have a project that really showed its scale, and we unveiled on October 6, 2017, Kathy Ray Smith, who is the Garden Club president, was our chosen artist. And it's a project that she worked with the library on and worked with some local businesses and was really proud to be part of. So looking forward, I know I already took a look at the street dance, which is on Friday, August 24th. Our certified local government grant closes, so we'll do that grant closing and start preparing for the next round, which will open up early 2019. And then we have a new economic development and tourism coordinator coming on Tuesday, August 28th. His name is Calvin Lesueur, and He's bright and he's got experience, and I'm really, really excited for him to come. And I think he will impress you all just as much as he impressed myself and everybody on the hiring committee. You have any questions?
I'm sure we do, Jamie. We always do. Great recap. Thank you. Appreciate knowing what the year was and kind of looking ahead. So the first question I have for you is the certified local government grant piece. Remind me again what we used the last grant for?
The Women's Heritage Trail was the biggest chunk of that, but Women's Heritage Trail, translating and reprinting brochures. We're working on doing some, the intensive level surveys just completed. So those were taking a look. One of the major parts that we did was actually the old police building, so that the new developer and also the potential new business could have that story. It takes a look at really the building blocks of the people and the things that went into the building. So it'll tell you more than just it's a concrete building that was built blah, blah, blah in this year, and tells the story of what happened behind it. And that has been the building blocks of our Exploring Downtown brochure, not specifically that, but the intensive level surveys, as well as our Women's Heritage Trail brochure. It helps us tell the story, and Canby has a story to tell.
Do we know yet kind of what the parameters are on the next grant coming up and what we might apply it to, or as we apply, what we'll focus on? One
of the things that we're talking about is the potential for focusing on what a preservation plan looks like. Cities like ours, when you start talking about certified local governments, that's a state certification. And the person at the state has suggested that we start looking into what a preservation plan would do in Canby. It helps to guide the future, take a look at the resources from the past. And so that might be our next step. But the other thing to remember is there are other grants out there. So if for some reason we needed to reprint a brochure, we might be able to find a grant for that. Or if we decided, oh, this really cool project, the Women's Heritage Trail is a good example. We used just the certified local government grant, but then we got Kiwanis to come on, and they actually donated to the Heritage and Landmark Commission through the city towards that project because they thought it was such an interesting project that we were working with the school district, the library, then with them, and that it was the first of its kind in the state of Oregon to focus on the efforts of women in a community.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jamie or comments on the Main Street plan? No?
We did it all without notes.
It's all here.
Perfect. Well,
thank you all.
Jamie. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, we'll move into communications. Mr. Robinson, anything at this time? No? All right. Our first opportunity for citizen input and community announcement. So it's an opportunity for the audience members to address the City Council on non-agenda items. And so each person, if you've got a yellow card filled out, and bring it over here to Ms. Schaefer, our city recorder, and we'll get you queued up here. But we have a couple. First up, we've got Jerry Herman. The showboats are coming.
Is it best to sit down or stand up, or what's best?
Whichever works best for getting
all right.
on the microphone.
Matthew Rigg, one of your residents, and by the way, I live out here too, is passing out a program that your mayor is involved in. We felt that we wanted to go to a number of cities that have been involved in river activities over the years. This community was built, as you know, by the railroads and the steamboat folks working together, and Salem is the same way. About 3 years ago, we decided we ought to try to design a program that would celebrate what steamboats and railroads did in settling the Willamette Valley. And down in Salem, there's a stern-wheeler, and that stern-wheeler can come here. And our point was, let's start out a program and test it with the best barbershop chorus in this part of the world. I'm talking about this part of America is the Oregon Senator's Chorus. About 45 people strong, with quartets that have won international status and such. By the way, Matthew is in a new quartet called Forever Young, and I'm really upset because he calls himself Forever Young. He's the bass in a quartet. You have a flyer in front of you which has a backside called Famous People and Famous Things.
You've got your mayor on there partway down. So.
And we wanted to honor, these are all reenactors and speakers from this area, Canby, Oregon City, etc. You've probably seen Robert Moore from Lynn City before. If you haven't, invite him to your council meeting. He'll tell you about what your community did with that great railroad man. All right. You notice that the two mayors are listed near the bottom there. This next week, on the 23rd, they're going to be on board the vessel. And by the way, there's still space available if you're interested. I have someone call your city hall here, and they'll get a hold of me, and I can probably get you on the vessel because the showboat's coming first to Salem, but our intention is to bring it here. The front side is what it's all about. Theater, reenactors, cultural history, then of course the barbershop music. This has worked out really well last year. That's sold out. This year, in spite of the smoke, etc., it's not quite sold out, but it's doing very well. Last year we gave an award to all the participants that were involved called the Orange Colored Sky Award. There was a reason for that. The skies were orange colored during our program. This year we're going to give the Golden Glow Award, and do you have some oversized pictures to show these people? We'll be real quick about this. And I think you all have the sample of what the Golden Glow Award will look like. There's about 12 people at Mayor Hodson and Mayor Chuck Bennett, people that really care about tourism. We know you do, and we know Chuck Bennett does. We're going to give out these awards to the reenactors and others that have participated. Well, the Golden Glow starts out with a man on top of the Capitol. Do you know that residents of your area about, well, 35 years ago, 1985, helped bring to attention of Governor then Tom McCall when he was in very bad health, and then his following governor, Governor Attia, the need to take advantage of making the man look better on top of the Capitol building. Tom McCall was concerned about it, and you see his picture there. Go to the next picture here. A little girl, though, Jenny Borden from this area, was 7 years old, and she said to Daddy, "You work for Tom McCall. Can you talk to him about making the man on top of the Capitol look better?" And he said, "Well, no, I can't. I can't talk to the governor. Not at that level. But why don't you start out by collecting a dime from each person in your school, and we'll see what happens." And the school did so well that they sent it statewide, and there's the next picture here. That's Jenny, by the way. $38,000 was generated that first year, enough to buy a gold leaf. That's why we're calling this the Golden Glow Award. And Jennifer, age 35 and a teacher from this area, and her father, John Borden, will be honored by Mayor Hodson and Mayor Chuck Bennett this next Thursday. Why are we telling you all this? We want to bring the showboat to this area. You're on the river. You're not right next to the river, but it's nearby. You have a great state park that has not yet a dock, but it has a place where a steamboat, sternwheeler, could pull up. We'd like to see this program above the falls, below the falls, in the port of Milwaukee, in the port of Oregon City, in the port of Oswego. We think the program has traction. We're going to go to the Tourism Development Council. I do a lot of grant work with them with a proposal, and I'd like to have your city's inclusion in this, that we bring the showboat to this area and make what's working in Salem work here, because people love it. The onshore programs of history and culture, the onboard programs of beautiful music performed in barbershop style. We think it's a winner for your area. We thank you, Mayor Hodson, for being willing to be a part of this. You probably wondered, what is this all about?
No, no, it's been great, and I appreciate you including me in it.
And by the way, I have 21 young people that I employ, and 8 of them are from your community. Ages 14 through 24 are what we work with. This one's 22. He's taller than me, but he's still 22. And so we work with young people. He's my administrator. He's the one that helps administer the grants that we do. We have 4 reenactors that know the story of your community and downriver communities, and one of them shocked the mayor, Chuck Bennett, last year because he knew the history of Salem better than anybody that the mayor had ever seen. So they'll be on the vessel doing their programs too. So thank you for letting us present this.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
We collect the awards from you. Keep this poster.
Yeah.
Keep the posters. If you'd like to go, give City Hall a call. Tell me who wants to go, and I'll get you on board. Okay?
Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Next, we've got Brandon Smith with the Willamette Valley Victory Riders. with a little presentation and donation. So Brandon, if you want to just, give us a little update on what your group is and why you're here, and I know, but they don't, and we'll take a couple of pictures and all that.
Thank you. And I apologize, I wrote things so.
No, absolutely. No, you're totally fine.
There's important stuff. Mayor Hudson City Council, is Police Chief Brett here?
He wasn't able to make it.
He wasn't able to make it,
yeah,
okay.
so,
Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight and your service to the community. I'm a former city councilor in Kaiser, so I know what you guys, the time that you have to put in for this. My name is Brandon Smith, and I'm here tonight with members of the Willamette Valley Victory Riders. We're a local chapter of the Worldwide Victory Motorcycle Club. We're based in Salem, Kaiser area. Our club first hosted the 2017 Kaiser Irish Festival Motorcycle Poker Run, and we donated the proceeds of that event to a veterans suicide prevention organization. We were invited back in 2018 to host again, and this time we decided to focus on children in the community, specifically those that are pulled out of bad situations by police and fire departments. 100% of the proceeds from our event go to help children all over the Willamette Valley via a program called 4Kids, and that stands for 4 Kids in Difficult Situations. The project of the 4Kids Charity Foundation, which is based in Florida, collects donations to assist and support the mental well-being and comfort for children during stressful transitions at police stations, shelters, children's services offices, and foster care agencies. And so we kind of brought a little demonstration. Each of the bags has a teddy bear. These go bags are filled with everything the kids would need, something to cuddle, things to hold on to, and know that someone cares. Stuffed animal coloring books, crayons, small toys, toiletries, books, handheld games, flashlight, etc. The poker run proceeds were used to purchase these go bags, and we're going to distribute them to agencies around the Willamette Valley. They can be kept in patrol vehicles and provided to children in their time of need. We had about 80 participants this year in our poker run who paid registration fees, bought 50/50 and raffle drawing tickets, and made cash donations. After paying out the prize money for the best and worst hand and also very minimal expenses, our net proceeds totaled just under $2,000. We want to take a minute to thank our sponsors. Cycle Country hosted the event and also donated. Wallery's Pizza, Hog Haven Leathers, Arcane Cellars, and Immortal Inc. are all in Salem, and they all donated to our raffle drawings and et cetera. So we wanted to come here tonight. We've got about 8 of these bags we want to donate to the city. Of course, we hope you never actually need them, but we know that does happen. So that we just wanted to do that, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll tell you what, let's maybe you guys want to grab the bags and we'll get some pics. I think we've got to do a group picture here in the front. Pardon my shorts, I was at the fair all day today, so more casual than usual, so thank you very much, you guys. Come on, Katie, man, you got to be in the picture. Coming close and cut off my,
Want to be seen in your shorts? I can't. You're going to be in shorts regardless. Yeah, we'll Photoshop pants.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well. We'll line them up right here, and then city manager will make sure that the police department gets them. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Your phone. I think that's all our stuff there.
I'll send it to you later.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. The other card I have is for an agenda item, so we'll move into mayor's business. Just to give everyone an update, we had a work session earlier this evening about the Parks Board recommendation. So we are moving forward with, the first piece we're moving forward with is looking at their, first part of their recommendation to us was looking at master planning and funding sources for parks and their development in the future, so we are kind of folding the funding piece into the master planning. So we are going to move forward with master planning, an overall Canby Parks master plan. And so we've already scheduled a next work session to decide what we want that master plan to include in terms of groups and organizations, specific pieces maybe that kind of are not listed in the current master plan. So that piece will be moving forward. And then the recommendations that the Park Advisory Board had made to us regarding which parks we should take a look at as development opportunities, which were, we refer to it as either the Simnett property, the Auburn Hills piece of property, and then a splash pad are definitely still recommendations that we have in there, and we're going to fold that into the master planning process as well, and definitely have that as a part of that as we move forward. We also had some really good conversations just on kind of where we are, shared some examples that a Canby citizen had shared with me about just some of the maintenance pieces of specifically like community park, and just some of the maintenance pieces that we definitely need to be working on and addressing within our park. So there is progress. We're making a lot of great movement and starting to create a lot of momentum on our park. So I really appreciate all of you for the work session today. Moving into a couple other pieces. So the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee meeting at the beginning of the month, a couple of key pieces we talked about. The first and major conversation is the vehicle registration fee conversation is definitely heating up amongst the Board of County Commissioners. So I will probably be working with Kim for our next meeting, maybe as an agenda item, to talk about our position on that. The Board of County Commissioners is looking to input from the cities on how they should approach it. So should the decision be put out to the voters? Should the Board of County Commissioners make it? What amount are we looking at increasing the vehicle registration fee? And I will provide all this with Kim so it gets in our packet for the next meeting. Do we want the same amount for all cars or different amounts for hybrids and electric cars? What kind of split of the funds do we want? Initially, the conversation was a 60-40 split of the vehicle registration fee, so 60% going to the county, 40 being split out amongst the cities. There was also the topic of possibly taking, I think it was 10 or 15% right off the top, that the county would put into using those funds to leverage larger projects. So how that would relate to Canby would be if we wanted to start pushing forward on the Arndt Road extension piece, since that it would be a project that would involve the county, would that be funds that they would then be able to specifically use for a larger project like that? And then the split would be 60-40 after those funds were peeled up. So I will get that information put together so that we can either, you can give me direction on what you want me to take back. I think I know, but I want to know. And then probably a letter of support we'll need to draft, or a letter of our position to take to the Board of County Commissioners, because I think that we'll need to do that. The other piece that came up that was voted on by C4 to support or encourage the drafting of a letter from C4, so the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, to support the, let me get the appropriate, it's to support Oregon Measure 102 to allow municipal bonds for affordable housing amendments. So it's a constitutional amendment that'll be on the November 6th, 2018 ballot. And so basically the overview of the language is that Measure 102 would amend the state constitution to allow counties, cities, and towns to, with voter approval and certain restrictions, use bond revenue to fund the construction of affordable housing without necessarily retaining complete ownership of the constructed housing. So that came up for conversation at C4, and majority of those voting members felt that C4 should, and the Board of County Commissioners should draft a letter to support the passage of this for housing. So wanted to let everyone know about that piece. We had the Junk Refunk a couple weekends ago, and that was another great turnout for that. Thanks. It was the White Goose that was here in town. Thank you, Cheryl Frampton. I was drawing a blank there. She had moved her business to Oregon City, but still kept the event here, and it was another great turnout. Last Thursday, we had the Dahlia grand opening. We had over 100 people turn out for the ribbon cutting and tour of the building. Councilor Spoon is sporting the Dahlia t-shirts. Councilor Smith, I know you did. Councilor Smith and Councilor Height, I have t-shirts for you. I forgot them. I will get them to you. I want to thank Mary Hanlon and her team, as well as city staff, for a great event and getting that underway. Fair has started, so that's bigger than usual traffic on 99. So if you've not been out there yet, today is Wednesday. We got Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's cookies, pies. We heard the big corn dog debate already this evening, so please go check it out. August 19th is the final Slice of Summer concert, so that's this Sunday. As Jamie mentioned, August 24th kicks off Canby's big weekend with the big night out, and then that's also the Dahlia Festival. We've got the Cuts for Thriftway Cruise In, so tons happening that weekend. And then August 25th is also, I think, potentially, I think it's still under conversation, the last movies in the park for the summer.
That's happening.
Yes, that is happening, but I meant if there was going to be a makeup day for the previous one. Undecided. And that's going to be Coco, starting at sunset. So that's my piece right now. Councilor Smith, we'll start with council reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any specific report tonight. I was not able to make planning commission on Monday, and the event of the Friendship Prairie was canceled for this month. There were a few public hearings on Monday, and I'll catch up on and give a report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Parker.
Well, I've been taking advantage of summer by going around and doing some camping and visiting cities in Oregon, and dropped by the Garlic Festival in North Plains last weekend and was looking at their posters that had been put up at the event for their Parks Master Plan, and a very robust master plan for parks planning. A woman came up to me and asked if I had any questions, and I said I was from Canby, and she goes, "Oh, well, I'm on a committee with your mayor. He's quite bright." It turned out it was the mayor of North Plains, so Brian,
we like to stick together.
You impressed her. And I was telling her that I have constituents that are concerned about the growth rate in Canby, and she said, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "Well, according to the latest census stuff, we figured, what, Tim, 3 to 4%? And on an annualized basis?
On an annualized basis, depending on which census figure you use. It could
right.
be 1.5%.
And she says, "Oh my, we've got a growth rate in the next 2 years of 25%.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes it helps to get out of town to get a little bit of perspective.
Yeah, North Plains is definitely bracing itself for a huge amount of development, and being on the backside of Hillsborough, they're starting to, they have affordable, housing is a little bit more reasonable, but they are starting to see it jump up dramatically, much like we have as well.
And here's something to chew on. She said that they passed an ordinance of their city council that any new annexations have 2 requirements. One, that a certain percentage have to be single-level homes because they're concerned about people being able to age in place. And secondly, that a certain amount have to be multifamily. That's in ordinance for any new annexations. And I said, gee, we don't have that in Canby.
I've been envisioning you and I having a conversation later about
Yes, seed has just been planted.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Councilor Parker. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I likewise attended the ribbon cutting celebration for the Dahlia. And this, I have to say, Jamie and the city, you guys know how to throw a party. That was pretty fun. That was exciting. And I wore my shirt in the Kitty Caper Parade. We kicked off the fair yesterday. That was a good time.
Riding a motorcycle.
Yes, I was on the back of a Harley, it's true. I have arthritis in my foot, I just couldn't walk another parade, but it was a lot more fun that way, too. And then I had my son throwing the dum-dums. We called him the sucker chucker. I don't think he liked the moniker, but we thought it was funny. Anyway, so that was a good time. I also attended the Franklin Graham Decision America event at the fairgrounds, and for that many people in one place at one time, I have to say it was the least traffic problem I ever seen at the fairgrounds. It was an amazing event, and everyone entered and exited very organized like. Also, the Book Nook, I went to that ribbon cutting as well. She had this tiny, tiny little space, and then she moved over next door in the same building, and she has probably 3 times the space she had before. It's my daughter's favoriteest shop, so we had to go in there. And so congratulations to them on their growth. And finally, for community staff, I also attended the chamber luncheon, which was held at the fairgrounds this month. The Traffic Safety Commission, ongoing conversations regarding 13th and new developments and how traffic's going to affect that. So those are just kind of ongoing conversations at this point, so nothing really new to report. We do have a new member, and looks like maybe one coming on that we're going to appoint at the next meeting, so we're full again, which is good. It's a very robust conversation in that commission, so that's it's good to have a full roster, if you will. And finally, the Suicide Prevention Task Force. I don't have an example in front of me, and I apologize for not bringing it, but outside in the lobby in this building, there's a table just outside the library door. We have the flyers and the pocket cards that are now bilingual. So we are asking businesses to host a sign in their restroom or in their front windows, and if they want to have them at their registers, put the pocket cards at the registers for folks to be able to pick up. We are also working with the school district to distribute them when school starts, as well as service organizations, youth groups, and that kind of thing. So we're really excited about that. We have, I think it's like 2,000 flyers and 2,000 or 5,000 pocket cards. So we have plenty in this first printing. I'm really excited about the progress that this group is making. We also, Ray Keene and myself and my daughter met with the school. We went to talk to the principal, and we're talking about some suicide prevention programming that we can maybe integrate into the school year. So it was an initial conversation. It was a good conversation, and we'll probably meet again in about another month or so to see what that might look like in implementing that. So I'm just really proud of the work that group has done, and it's been something near and dear to my heart, but it's something that we needed, and I think that the community's really come together on this. So that concludes.
Thank you. Council President Dale.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. With Canby Utility, they have finally moved into their new headquarters over on 4th and Pine. Beautiful building, all lit up. They are planning an open house tentatively in October to coincide with Public Utility Day, and so be looking forward to a hot dog party and lots of equipment for the kids to play on and get a tour of the new building. Just to assure everyone, the drive-through is there. They still have a drive-through, so you can still pay your bill that way. And as Chair Potter wanted me to make sure to mention, they finished under budget. So there you go. Likewise, attended the Dahlia opening and took the tour. Wonderful facility. Our thanks again at the city to Mary Hanlon and her crew for their perseverance and having faith in Canby and its future. There's been a lot of talk lately about growth in cities. I was texting with the mayor and Councilor Parker earlier today. Forbes Business has announced that by percentage of population, Oregon is the #2 moving destination in the country. So we are definitely seeing our growth, not by sheer numbers of people, but by percentage of our population, which is what we feel. So that's why things are hot. And then finally last night, as the mayor mentioned, the fair is on. I attended the rodeo last night. It was World Champion Night. And, you know, Little Canby, we are a big name on the circuit. We really are. And we had most of the world champions that are available, that are participating, were here last night. And these are guys that make upwards of 7 figures a year. These are big-time folks. So don't underestimate the Canby Rodeo. Be sure to go. You have 1, 2, 3 more nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. You can get your tickets online. It's easy. Just Google for Canby Rodeo, and you'll see how to do it. You can pick reserved seating, or you can sit with the Canby Crazies on the bleacher or in the bullpen. All right, all 3 of them are great fun places. Well,
Tomorrow.
yeah, come on down to the bullpen and see a city councilor. How's that?
Do we need a quorum notice?
Kim, you might want to think about it, because it's sounding pretty good in the warm weather. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilor Height.
Hello. So with the library, their summer reading program just ended last week, I think on Thursday, and I'm proud that my 3 kids did it. They all accomplished it on time, and in fact, they were in the back row, but they left a while ago. I was going to recognize them. I asked them to come to see Mom in action, and they did for like 40 minutes, and then they left. But anyway, good job, kids, for doing that. Another pretty interesting event I think that's happening is called a repair fair at the library. I know other cities have done this. So it's August 25th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. here in the library. So it's small, like sewing projects, appliances that are broken. There's a bunch of volunteers with various skills that come on down and help you repair things. So, you know, save up your stuff. I think I have a button, a hard button that I can't figure out that I might have them do. But that's coming on August 25th. I haven't had my library board meeting yet or my Canby area transit, so I don't have anything there to report, but I wanted to say that we're going to approve Larry Vargas to the Heritage and Landmark Commission soon tonight, and I wanted to say rah-rah for him. He's really involved in my neighborhood. He's a good community leader, so I'm glad to welcome him to that committee soon, and I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Councilor Spoon.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bridging Cultures has a couple more events left this summer, but this Saturday is the picnic in the park again, 11:30 a.m. Locust Street Park. And then also today was the last day of their STEAM camp, which they've done for a couple of years now, and my son participated this year. So it's about 3 weeks long for incoming 5th graders, and they did everything from dissecting a computer and rebuilding it inside of a milk crate, which is now in my living room. I was like, is this a computer? But it is, and it's pretty cool. And they built Lego robots, and then the last couple of days he built a robotic arm, and they did computer animation in 3D and in 2D, and it was pretty amazing. And Bridging Cultures does it. A couple of the Young Gingrich educators run it, and just really an exceptional program that, you know, last year my son wasn't super excited about school for the first time, and by golly, if he wasn't up every morning at 7 a.m. asking me when it was time to go to STEAM with his lunch made and his hair done, I was like, all right, this is pretty exciting for him. So a really neat program. If you have an incoming 5th grader, try and connect with them. I think they work. I think that the teachers, the students. Teachers might nominate them for the program, but any awareness, or if you're, you know, maybe your student's teacher doesn't know about it or something like that. So check into that. Pretty cool program that they put on. CTV5 is continuing to be more and more present in the community, active in the events. They again live aired the Kitty Caper Parade yesterday, which was pretty cool. Todd, Gary, and Matt English were the MCs, and so it was neat to see them down there. Their meeting is next week, so I'll be at that and I'll have more information. Movies in the Park is August 25th. It is Coco, and also Kelsey Bales, if you're familiar with her, a pretty well-known little local area musician, is going to do a small set beforehand to celebrate music, because that's what Coco's all about, music and family. So that'll be fun. The Adult Center meeting was today, but it wasn't on their usual day, so I was taking tickets for Rotary at the fair, but I'll get an update from them behind the scenes and let you guys know next time what's happening there. Also attended the Dahlia Building ribbon cutting, pretty awesome. It was really neat to see Modest City Brewing there talking about their vision for the old police station. So I think a lot of people think of the Dahlia project, we call it the City Block project because we know it's much more than that one building, but for most people, it looks like just that one building. So it was a really neat opportunity for the developer and the community to talk about all of the other things involved, including preserving the City Hall building, eventually doing something with the utility building, the old Canby utility building, and the complete renovation of the police building that looks like is pretty close to being a sure thing that would include bringing a brewery and a brew pub to our downtown, which is an interesting and exciting investment that's a little bit different than some other things we have. So that was really neat to see. And I think he
he had business cards, and I don't know if they have a Facebook page yet, but I'm sure there's a place that you can see the design elements that go into that. So, and then I know that I think they've already had people moving into the apartments, haven't they? If not yet, pretty darn soon.
Supposed to be this week, yeah.
This week. Yeah, my mother-in-law surprised me. She's moving in, so I know her move-in date is September 1st. But I think one of the reasons it was early before the elevator was ready to go is because they had people ready to move in, so they had to show the apartments before people moved in. So it'll be neat to see a different kind of activity on that building for the first time in a year. Other than just building, we'll start to see people going in and out with their groceries and coming home from work. It'll be exciting. And then finally, Jamie left, but I just wanted to comment. On my way in today, I really noticed the flower baskets, and they look really amazing, and I kind of take them for granted because I'm downtown every day, but they're such a special touch. And right now, below the flower baskets, there's like plants cascading out of the little flower beds, and it really looks beautiful. And I just wanted to mention that I noticed it today because I usually take it for granted, and it's a really special touch that I think makes our downtown feel like the community I know it to be.
Yeah, we really want to recognize our Public Works crew that maintains those flower baskets every morning to make sure that they are the beautiful display that you see each day.
Thank you. Well, great. We'll move into the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the minutes of the August 1st, 2018 City Council regular meeting, a liquor license application for La Divina Providencia Tienda Mexicana, the appointment of Jennifer Giller to the Heritage and Landmark Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2020, the appointment of Larry Vargas to the Heritage and Landmark Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2019, and the appointment of Doug Reichen to the Bike and Pedestrian Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Great. The motion's been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which include the adopting the minutes of the August 1st, 2018 City Council regular meeting, a liquor license application for La Divina Providencia Tienda Mexicana, appointment of Jennifer Giller to the Heritage and Landmark Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2020, appointment of Larry Vargas to the Heritage and Landmark Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2019, and appointment of Doug Reichen to the Bike and Pedestrian Committee for a term to expire on June 30th, 2019. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Move into resolutions and ordinances.
The first item you have is Ordinance 1489. This is before you for second reading. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 9.48.050A, regarding noise variance exemptions and declaring an emergency.
Kim? Mr. Robinson.
Yes, after some considerable discussion in our last meeting, we did make two recommended changes, which you ultimately approved in our exceptions and variances section of the noise of our noise ordinance. The first one would add the language including fireworks and other explosive devices at football games to exception number 4. It had previously read sound produced by sound amplifying equipment at activities sponsored by Canby School District between 7 a.m. and midnight local time. And as I indicated, we've added including fireworks and other explosive devices at football games. The second change adds a new number 14. The language of that is sound including the discharge of fireworks and other explosive devices created from city and Canby Fire District sanctioned events. That is the limit of the changes that you had approved at the last meeting.
Any questions at all at this point for?
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
And I apologize, I was on vacation during the original conversation last time, but when it says sounds including the discharge of fireworks, etc., I'm not sure why it was made so specific, and I'm not, because I wasn't here, but I assume that sounds would then include the announcer too, because it then specifies fireworks, etc., but okay.
Yeah, it actually says that the entirety of the exception is sounds produced by sound amplifying equipment at activities, including fireworks and other explosive devices. So it includes all sound amplifying equipment and activities, which would include the announcers. But there
I don't
was,
see the amplified part now. Where's that?
In four.
Okay, so I
A4.
just, oh,
It's the
there it is,
highlighted
the other
section.
red line. I
Yeah, it's
apologize.
the yeah, go
Okay.
up to 4.
There it is, thank you.
And that, yes, and so everything that was acceptable as an exception, I guess that's a double negative, that was included as an exception initially is still intact, but now we have included as an exception fireworks and other explosive devices at football games.
Okay, so my other question related to that is that that's not the only time that they use. I mean, I live in the neighborhood next to it. It's actually shockingly loud. I think I'm the only one here that lives over there. But the first Friday night I was here that one went off, I literally thought something was blowing up outside my house. But they do it like during graduation and during other events, so is that then not included in this? They would have to get...
That's correct.
So why did we specify football games and not anything else? I guess I'm not sure what the point of the ordinance is if they still need to get variances for other events that are outside
The was kind of determined as being traditional. The graduation was new. They just added that.
It was a one-time,
Yeah.
yeah.
It also has a timeliness function to it because football's coming up, and they actually wouldn't have enough time to get a variance between now and football season because of the signatures and all the other requirements. And the noticing. So basically, this is an homage to history, but at the same time, if they want to do it for graduation, they can go through their paces and do it and still be able to accomplish that by graduation time, if that helps. That's another
And
part.
to give a Cliff Notes version of last meeting,
Thank you.
there was significant debate and discussion about this. It was a broader exemption at first. I believe Councilor Height had some objections, and Councilor Hensley had proposed to cut it down some to just football games, I think, as sort of a compromise.
Yeah, and then the new facilities manager for the school district was at the last meeting, and we expressed and had dialogue about them looking more or working with Western Fireworks to use the smaller,
Some of less concussion.
yeah, the smaller mortars that they shoot off, just to be able to get them, the projectiles up versus the larger ones, which give the bigger bang. And so that is something that the school district the facilities manager said that they will work with Western Fireworks on to use less concussive, I think was the phrase we would use, of fireworks than what they've been using the last year or two.
Yeah,
what they used it and what they used at graduation.
It's surprisingly loud. I'm sorry, I have one more question, Councilor Height. And then my other question is, so that kind of makes sense to me because I guess that it's pretty easy to find out when the home football games are so that you can prepare yourself or in some capacity get ready for it. My only concern about the City of Canby and Canby Fire District sanctioned events is if someone was affected by the noise or whatever, how would they find out without there needing to be a variance or whatever when that would happen so that it wouldn't be as disruptive to them and their particular issue?
Canby Fire does the 4th of July fireworks, and this was specifically to address, and that's the only fireworks that they do. The City of Canby, we don't currently use fireworks in our activities, but it would be, if we did, it would be in concert with an existing noticed event.
So we could make sure to make the potential
we would
noise
allow
part of the
people-
notice so that there would be, I just hate the idea that someone would be surprised by a noise if they have a particular issue associated with it.
Yeah, we're a little different than the schools in that as we advertise events, we are much more comprehensive in how we advertise the event. If there were going to be fireworks associated with an event, that would be a feature of the event and not just incidental to it.
Thank you.
Councilor Hyde.
Yeah, so my question is, so if we pass this, the noise level that, say, the fireworks emit a certain decibel of noise, and there's one that's permissible at this point, right? But if a neighbor were to say, oh, this goes beyond the permissible level, does this supersede that? Does this give us the opportunity, or the high school then the opportunity to blast them as loud as they possibly can or
It
want?
lets them use fireworks at home football games. That's all it does. It lets them continue to do what they've done for 30 years.
Right, but if like somebody that lives along the property line, are they allowed still to file a complaint like they did last year and say, oh, this exceeds the decibel level, so we're out of compliance?
No, they're not. This is an exception. This is a variance. And so what you're considering today for a second reading, which I believe you voted against in the last meeting.
That's true, yes.
What you're considering today is the second reading of the ordinance that would amend our noise ordinance to exempt fireworks at football games.
So then citizens just wouldn't have any recourse thereafter,
That's
even if
correct.
they got even louder. It's like, oh, this is passed. Sorry, we can't enforce.
I think if they got obscenely loud, they could always come and complain, and we could revisit this exception and determine if the school district is taking unusual or unreasonable advantage of the exception. We always have the right to manage and amend our ordinances if we deem them to be not in the public interest.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that we as a council and as a city, if there was still an issue, that would be something that we would look at and entertain. I don't want to think of us as being so unresponsive or opaque in how we are seeing these kinds of things and whatnot. So now, future councils, I won't speak to that, but I suppose I could always become that way, but I don't think currently we are.
This exception does allow them, and were you going to say something? I didn't.
No, I just said I would like to have a little faith in the word of the school district that they're going to try and work with keeping it quieter. I mean, I don't think they're going to get obscenely loud when they know this is an issue, so.
Yeah, but no, the police won't come and give them a ticket for it. I mean, that's the reason you come for a variance. This is a kind of a built-in variance for football games. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Not right now.
No. Any questions for staff at all? No. No. Paul, you have a card that you filled out. Would you like to come and share with us, sir?
Yeah.
How are you?
How are you, by the way?
I'm well, sir. Yourself?
Not too bad. I might need more than 3 minutes, about 30 seconds worth.
You got it. You sure have
Unless
it.
I digress, and I'll try not to. Okay, Mayor Hodson and council members. I'm going to just read this and then we'll get through it. If you'd like me to sit here, last time I got up and left pretty quick due to nerves, but I'm willing to sit here if that would help facilitate things. I reviewed the video of the August 1st council meeting, and I believe the following is accurate and can be verified. The benefit of the many outweighs the needs of the few. Tradition is more important than someone's medical needs. Expediency to move forward with a new amendment to the proposed amendment becomes important because time is running out for the school district to apply for a variance to continue the explosions at the high school football games. Next was a bit of hyperbole. The explosions brings the community together, and thousands upon thousands enjoy this. Seems to me that the unity comes from supporting the team, of which thousands upon thousands may enjoy. The explanation to the need of this new amendment is specious. I submit the following to support my statement. Amendment 15, right to vote, not to be denied because of race, color, or servitude. Amendment 19, right to vote, not to be denied because of gender. These amendments change tradition as well as acknowledge the needs of the few as greater than the needs of the many. A national holiday is no longer celebrated excuse me, in the public school system because of the needs of a few outweighed the needs of the many. It's called Christmas. The civil rights movement is loaded with examples of tradition that were changed because of the few. The new amendment does not address my concerns or my request for relief due to a medical condition. It seems to manipulate the conversation from the city and direct it to the Canby School District. It also uses language that benefits one team above the many. The following is from the Canby Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare Synopsis. 9.48.020, Responsibility and Authority. B, authority. In order to implement this chapter and for the general purpose of sound abatement and control, the city administrator or his or her designee shall have, in addition to any other authority vested with him or her, the following. Number 1, planning. Implement a noise control strategy in consonance with the city's zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan to assure public and private enterprises do not adversely impact existing noise-sensitive properties and properties designated for noise-sensitive uses. 9.48.010, Standards and Definitions, directly across from planning, is noise-sensitive land use includes property on which residential, housing, apartment buildings, schools, churches, hospitals, and nursing homes are located. Plainly audible means unambiguously communicated sounds which disturb the comfort, repose, or health of the listener. That is singular. Plainly audible sounds include, but are not limited to, understandable musical rhythms, understandable spoken words, and vocal sounds other than speech which are distinguishable as raised or normal. Ambient noise means all-encompassing noise associated with a given environment, being usually a composite of sounds from any sources near or far. Out of the 8 or 9 schools in the Canby district, what is the ambient noise of the majority of the schools or of the many as opposed to the few? How is the Canby High School in compliance with the above-mentioned standards definitions? How does any of the above-mentioned assure the citizens of Canby that the school is adhering to the zoning ordinances and comprehensive plan to assure public enterprises, i.e. Canby High School, isn't adversely impacting existing noise-sensitive properties? Please reconsider my original letter when referring to plainly audible. My comfort, repose, and health has been disturbed. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that very much. Questions or clarifications there for Paul at all?
No. No. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, the other thing is looking forward to meeting all of you outside of this, that we might share a cup of coffee and a little humor, because I'd rather do that than this.
Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay. So we have a motion here for this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance number 1489, amending the Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 9.48.050, Parent A, regarding noise variance exceptions and declaring an emergency.
Second. Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Smith to approve ordinance 1489, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 9.48.050, Parent A, regarding noise variance exemptions and declaring an emergency. Discussion.
I have a couple of comments I'll make since I wasn't here last time. Like I said, I live in the neighborhood. It is shockingly loud. I would like to believe that I live in the neighborhood adjacent to the high school, between high school and Ivy, and I live about 4 or 5 streets away from the high school, so I'm not even particularly adjacent to it. It's extremely loud, and so I like to hope that the school district will make some adjustment to the materials that they're using. But one of my concerns, I mean, when I saw this coming up, I talked to a couple of combat veterans in my neighborhood. This in particular is not the only noise that comes from the high school that's large and loud. From my house 4 or 5 streets away, I can hear announcers at soccer games, at track meets. The gun goes off for the track meets. I can hear other events. Like, I actually don't think this ordinance solves the totality of the noise issue. If we're going to be honest about the violations of the noise ordinance coming from the high school, they're going to be needing to come back for a lot more variances before the season starts, because football's not the only time they violate, right? So I have a little bit of issue with the fact that I'm not even sure it really solves the problem, though I'll admit that the football games are the loudest for sure. They're certainly from 4 or 5 streets away, not the only thing I can hear at night coming from the high school. So that's one issue I'm concerned about, is that it doesn't even really solve the variance issue, because I think the high school would need to come back for other ones for the fall. Another thing is, I'm not sure I believe that the explosion for the football games is necessary for the experience. I understand it's tradition, but I think if you say that the explosion's going away, people aren't going to stop coming to the games and people aren't going to stop supporting Canby High School football. I just don't see it as a necessary component. And the other thing I take issue with is I hate the idea of adjusting citywide policy because the high school failed to plan to get a variance. I mean, I don't like the idea of someone not getting a variance in the appropriate amount of time and then us changing policy for other people too. I mean, at the end of the day, they had an opportunity to get a variance. Like we said, it's a 30-year tradition. They didn't know football season wasn't coming. You know, they had ample opportunity to get a variance to take care of the issue. And so I hesitate to support any change of citywide policy to accommodate someone's lack of planning, because I don't think that's our responsibility. If the school district didn't get a variance, that's really on them. I don't like the idea of permanently changing policy to accommodate something that they knew was happening and coming. And so that's where I stand on it.
I do need to make it clear that the fundamental difference between this program that happens every year in the same location by another public agency is that it happens every year by a public agency in the same location, and so it's consistent, and because of that, it's eligible for consideration as an ongoing change to our ordinance. If it's intermittent or or can't be determined when it might occur or might only happen one time, then that puts it in a different category. And so I do see a difference, and you know, when we look at public agencies and we look at the services that they provide and the activities that they sponsor for the benefit of the community, then we tend to look at them. I tend to look at them more holistically.
No, and I see that, but I think like we make the swimming pool comes and gets a variance for the gator grinder every year, and that noise is actually critical to the event. The event can't happen without that noise. I'm not sure I buy into the idea that the football game can't happen without the explosion. So I think that while it is a public event that has benefit for the community, it's not a critical sound, so I don't think it's unreasonable to ask them to get a variance in a timely manner. Right. And that's where I think the difference is. Like the noise is not, the event can happen with or without the noise, so I don't hinge the importance of the event to the noise. To me, they're separate issues, kind of. The explosion particularly, I could get behind letting the announcers do what they're going to do, because I don't think you can have the event without the announcers. But I think a variance for an optional sound is not an unreasonable measure or standard for me. I mean, I would totally support something to allow the announcing to happen without a variance, because I don't think you can have the event without it. But yeah, sorry. And
I think there's a drastic misunderstanding about how the rest of the ordinance works and how the measurement of the decibels applies. We aren't even in that same section. The decibels has to be measured over a period of time and has to average out to be over a certain amount of decibels over a certain amount of time. So that's entirely different. I suspect that even during a football game, the announcer's infrequent commentary would not add up, you know, in the amount on a measurement scale to actually break the decibels. This is talking like, you know, giant parties and music blaring, right, and, you know, vehicles running for long periods of times, and a use like a factory or manufacturing plant that's going to have a continual use, or a railroad or whatnot. It's going to have a continual use. That's the stuff that gets in violation of those decibel type.
Right, but no, I live 5 streets away and I can hear almost the entire announcing of the game. Like it's not like I can hear a word every 10 minutes. Like I could tell you what's happening minute by minute in the game from my house. So I just like, it is like an ongoing noise. So, but if it doesn't have to be, then why are we altering it at all? If the explosion doesn't violate the ordinance, so I guess, is that what you're telling me?
I'm
that the explosion?
Talking about the announcer. You keep bringing up the announcer and the announcer, which is not what we're dealing with today. And I suspect that wouldn't even violate.
So anyway.
The decibel level, though, that's a good point, Tyler. And Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that last fall, a neighbor that lives adjacent to the high school actually complained, and we went out there with a reader or device, and it was, in fact, in violation of our noise ordinance, and that's how the ball got rolling on this. I mean, the school has never applied for a variance ever that we know of, right? It's just, it was brought to their attention just this year that, oh, you guys are out of compliance. Am I wrong about that, or is that how this went down?
Well, we did have a decibel reader out there, but we determined that the readings, that the reader was not properly calibrated, so couldn't use that information either in support of or in opposition to the complaint.
So we just simply don't know then what the real...
We simply, well, it's my personal belief, and I think I've shared that with you, that in my testimony 2 weeks ago, that for the fireworks display to occur at the football games, a variance needs to occur and it needs to be acknowledged. I think that it is likely, highly likely, that the fireworks exceed the decibel level for those homes that are immediately adjacent to school property, and I've shared that with the superintendent on several occasions. And so this is the proposal that's on the table. Council has an opportunity to support the proposal and the continuation of the school's fireworks displays, or to choose otherwise. It's the ball's in your court here.
And I would just add a little bit, I guess, in that the ordinance as it currently stands, actually the announcing is accepted or has an exemption right now. So that answers that, so we don't have to worry about that. Even if you did nothing, the announcing has been always, and we're aware that it's noisy, and I would suspect too, there is features of our ordinance that, you know, you have to be a certain decibel for a certain amount of time at a certain level, but if you get, say, 15 or 20 decibels over any allowable levels, even instantaneously, it violates the ordinance. And I would think that the canon in particular would be something that would most likely, even though we don't have the absolute, because when we tried to read it, it wasn't properly calibrated, but I would suspect that that does violate the ordinance, and I think that is why we're here, and I think that's why it's necessary, and now it's just a policy decision if you want to go forward and allow them to continue or not.
So can I add one more thing? Just despite what I said, I have concerns that it still doesn't resolve the problem, because even the track meet gun, I can hear from inside my house like someone shooting a gun at my house. So I suspect there are other, and that this specifies football games. So that's really one of the things. I mean, I live far enough away that it's got to be pretty loud if I can hear it, but close enough that I can hear it. And so I would just point out that maybe the school ought to consider coming back for a variance for that, because at this point I feel like they're a little bit on notice that the noise is an issue. But the only reason I'm going to vote for it is because they said that they would try and reduce the concussive sound. However, I will say that as someone that's going to hear it every Friday night, if they don't, I'll be back complaining about it, asking for an amendment, or to an adjustment, because I think it's appropriate to have concern for the wellness of the people in the neighborhood adjacent to you. So I'm going to support this, but if the sound does not change, I'll be back complaining about it, because I think that that's a reasonable ask of the school district to do something a little less noisy, a lot less noisy, in fact, I would say.
And I sure hope the school district works towards that too, as they said they would. But like during the first reading, I voted against it, actually, Sarah, for many of the reasons that you mentioned, and I had a hard time voting for a tradition. And Paul makes a good point about tradition. Like there's a time to overturn a tradition, and I don't think the explosions are critical to the enjoyment. I mean, there's a lot of community camaraderie. I mean, it's a good time out there regardless of the explosions. And so he made a good point there too. But right, if there are people out there suffering unnecessarily, I just can't vote in favor for that, so I'll be voting against it.
Any other discussion items? No. Okay. So we call for the roll call vote. Guess we got it. Then we'll move into roll call vote.
Counselor Smith?
Yes.
Counselor Parker?
Aye.
Counselor Hensley? Aye. Counselor Dale?
Aye.
Counselor Height?
Nay.
Counselor Spoon?
Aye.
All right, that passes 5-1. Thank you. Next ordinance?
The next item we have is ordinance 1491. This is authorizing a contract with Curran McLeod Incorporated, consulting engineers for engineering services for North Maple Street reconstruction and declaring an emergency.
Yes, as we'd indicated at our last council meeting, the section of North Maple Street between 10th and 14th Avenue is set for reconstruction. We're currently working on acquiring right-of-way. The engineering services contract would be in an amount not to exceed $103,200, and this is a second reading.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on this? No? Motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 1491, authorizing a contract with Curran McLeod Incorporated, consulting engineers for engineering services for North Maple Street reconstruction and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Is that you, Councilor Height?
Yeah.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance 1491, authorizing a contract with Curran McLeod Incorporated, consulting engineers for engineering services for North Maple Street reconstruction and declaring an emergency. Roll call vote.
Councilor Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Parker? Aye. Councilor Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Spoon?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Next ordinance up.
The last ordinance is ordinance 1492. This is authorizing the mayor and our city administrator to execute an immediate opportunity fund agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of the intersection of North Elm Street and Oregon 99E in the amount not to exceed $137,951 and declaring an emergency.
We're actually very excited about this ordinance and this IGA, and so I'd ask Jennifer to come up and share it with you.
Perfect. Jennifer, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing, Mayor?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Very well.
Good. What do you got for us?
So this grant is a small portion of the bigger project for the Quiet Zone. It's a little convoluted, but I'll see if I can break it down to simpler terms for everybody. The ODOT grant will fund the improvement at the South Elm Street intersection on the northeast corner to improve the turning radius. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that the semi-trucks drive over the corner. Exactly. So it becomes, because it's a high-use crossing for the high school as well, we're looking to improve that intersection, which is going to, it has a couple challenges, one being that we have a Highline PGE pole that we're going to look at relocating, and we need to purchase an easement or some right-of-way to push the ADA ramp back further and improve that turning radius. So this is what this funding is for. There's additional funds that we have appropriated for the full project to install signing and center median curbs across the up to the railroad tracks on either side to improve safety, so we can apply for the Quiet Zone variance. So this piece today is just for the grant.
Right. And the center medians that Jennifer mentioned would be constructed on Ivy Street, Grant Street, and Elm Street, and would essentially provide for only right in, right out, making a safer intersection for people exiting and entering onto First Avenue. Just another degree of safety that will be required by UP Railroad for a quiet zone to be considered.
Jennifer, is there a time limit on this money at all?
Yeah, I think you're right. I actually put out a RFP today for the engineering firm, so we're going to move forward right away with this. I don't suspect that we'll need the full 5 years to complete the project. I'm hoping possibly next summer if we can take care of those challenges up front.
So this money is for the engineering of this project, or it's a big chunk of the project?
Both. both.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's
for both.
both.
It's the 50% of our projected cost of the project. We have the balance of the project budgeted in our urban renewal budget. It's something that you'd approved, and so we have what we believe will be all of the funding necessary to complete the improvements on Elm Street, and separately from what you're considering tonight, to do the center medians on the 3 streets. And then we'll be back to UP Railroad requesting approval of the quiet zone. One of the reasons that the engineering firm that is being sent the request for a proposal has been selected is that they have specific expertise in quiet zone in negotiating with Union Pacific Railroad.
And the E-clause?
Yes, we are, and I would also say the state of Oregon are very anxious to get this project underway. They've asked us to fast track this to the extent possible so they can get it to their signatories, because they're expecting it may take a little while to get to the highest echelons necessary to execute the agreement. So they've asked us to do our best to get it back to them executed.
Very good.
Thank you for reminding me.
Of course. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 1492, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute an immediate opportunity fund agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of the intersection of North Elm Street and Oregon North 99E in an amount not to exceed $137,951, and declaring an emergency to come up for second reading on September 5th, 2018.
Second.
A motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance 1492, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute an immediate opportunity fund agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of the intersection of North Elm Street and Oregon 99E in an amount not to exceed $137,951, and declaring an emergency and to come up for second reading on September 5th, 2018. Any other discussion?
I would also point out, and this is actually a very critical component of this whole project and reallocation of resources from state administration to local administration, that the improvements at Elm Street had initially been part of ODOT's larger improvement project on 99 within our city limits, and we, over a series of meetings, were able to convince ODOT that it is okay for the city to manage this project, which allows us to fast track it. It probably, I would say, will move forward by about 2 years, the completion date that we would otherwise be seeing on this project. I want to express my appreciation to Jennifer for the work that she's done.
And I know that that conversation was a big piece to get that moved from ODOT into our our jurisdiction to be able to do this, so that is a big deal. And I know you have a comment or question, but I do have one question regarding the power pole. What kind of work do we need to do? Is that's PGE's power pole, correct?
Correct.
And so where are we at with that piece of the project? Because that's not a small feat.
No, so one of the first tasks that the engineering firm that we selected to do the project to look at is going to be to tackle the PGE pole, and basically we'll have to get with PGE. The one thing that becomes critical with PGE is they don't like to do anything unless you have 90% plans. So, but we'll start the discussion ahead of time and see if there's other ways that we can fast track that and have the pole moved. It would be something that they would do because they're in the right of way.
Yeah, and we pay them to do that, and it's a fairly substantial cost. And as you know, our challenge is that they're very, very strict on having, knowing exactly where the improvements are going to occur, so that when the pole is moved, it'll be moved to the right location. So these have to happen in a sequential fashion. The other challenge that we are going to be facing from a time perspective is that we've been informed that there's about a 6-month delay from the date of request to the actual work being done to move the pole. So we know that once we get to 90%, unless Jennifer is successful at getting them to fast track based on some basic designs, once we get to 90% drawings, we're still looking at 6 months to get in their schedule to do the move, unless Jennifer has pulled some rabbits out of the hat in the past, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if she can elevate this in their minds as well.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm so glad that our goals are aligned with ODOT's goals. I mean, it's nice to see positive rapport between government agencies, because oftentimes it seems like there's not. You know, we're critical of the state, but this is a great relationship building event, I think. Also, can one of you describe what this median will look like? I looked through the packet and the drawing, it was too hard for me, you know, like blue.
It's a concrete curb that goes down the center of the road, and it prevents traffic from crossing over the center line when they're turning left or right. You can only go where the road lets you go, and it's not going to let you cross over, so you won't be able to make a left turn off First Avenue, as an example, going in either direction, because the median will cover that. And the reason is that then once we have a quiet zone, it becomes an unsafe turn to be that close to the railroad tracks, turning in, you know, toward the railroad tracks and the flow of traffic, if the flow of traffic is toward the railroad tracks coming from either direction, either north or south.
So the median's on the north side and the south side.
And the south side.
Elm. And how long are we talking? How long is this?
Well, it will, on the south side, it will be to just this side of the intersection of the crosswalk. On the north side, it will be to just the other side, it would be the north side of First Avenue.
Okay, so it will then just be a right turn only from
It'll be
going
right turn.
west.
Which will create a much safer turning pattern anyway. We seem to have a lot of issues associated with left turns off First Avenue as it is.
So, if you remember when we were first talking about the possibility of the development of what used to be Elm Street, Jarbo's, Couches, that space, that all the traffic would flow towards Elm, but it would be right turn only onto Elm. You couldn't make a left crossing over. So that was part of that project and the quiet zone aspect. And so now coming down First, you'll only be able to make a right on Elm coming off of there by the hardware, rental. Thank you, Canby Rental, instead of being able to make a left. You won't be able to make a left there, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
can barely make a left there.
It's
Will
dicey
you
there.
be able to cross the intersection nonetheless from Elm Street?
No,
across
you'll lose that movement as well.
all of that?
You'll have to
It's
go-
right only.
Yeah.
Across the whole
You'll have to go up to the crosswalk and use the crosswalk. Whereas like, you know, over there by A&W and Starbucks, where they like to cross in the middle there by Safeway in the driveway to go to Dutch Brothers, it'll force them to go down the crosswalk and cross.
It creates a much safer traffic and pedestrian flow.
I suspect they don't want traffic queued up
Exactly.
for somebody trying to turn right, or excuse me, left, and then traffic backs up on the railroad tracks. So I think that's the piece that the railroad's looking to eliminate, is that you don't have queued traffic across the road. That's my suspicion.
Yeah, if you're going to eliminate one form of notice of an oncoming train, you have to make sure that you create an environment that's going to be safe for persons that could be traversing down Elm, Grant, or Ivy in such a fashion that they could be placed on the railroad tracks without that horn notice that would be absent with the quiet zone.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? No? right.
No, I'm
so-
just really excited for the quiet zone, and I'm happy to see us make progress. The most Canby moment happened during the Dahlia ribbon cutting when Tim was talking, Councilor Dale was talking, and a train came in the middle of his talk, and I was like, that's the most Canby thing that's happened so far. And he leaned over and said, "It's an Amtrak, it'll be gone quick." So,
I did notice citizens plugging their ears at the junk refunk too, so
Yeah.
no, I'm really
it
excited
will
for the
make
quiet zone.
impacts for other events downtown.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna,
all right,
and it's
thank
gonna
you.
be great for residents and businesses who can't talk on the phone during the 3 p.m. train.
Very good.
And
All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, that passes 6.
if I may, I do want to compliment Jennifer on the work that she did in preparing the request for qualifications for engineering services, and then following up with a very quick turnaround to get the request for proposal out to the selected engineering firm to do this design work. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you guys as well.
Next up, we have new business, so we findings, conclusions, and final order for application 18 dash, or sorry, this is a application or appeal 18-02. So this is just, Joe?
Well, and yeah, and Brian Brown wasn't here to present this. He's been working actually extra hard, and I think a lot of overtime anyway. But this came out of the appeal and actually the denial of the appeal, and so this is the codified findings and conclusions of that denial of that appeal, and it has the language in it that everybody agreed to.
So this basically captures the information that Mr. and Mrs. Steinke wanted to have for their property around the Stafford land development there on the south end of town.
Yes, and it also incorporates the new map that doesn't have the shadow platting on it. Okay.
Yeah, and I did excuse Brian tonight. This was a non-controversial item that both parties were in agreement, had expressed agreement for during the public hearing, so it did not seem that I should waste an entire evening of his time.
Yes, sir.
Just a reminder, Joe. Exhibit 1 shows the plat as we have approved it, correct? And it's the result of the negotiation that was done between the developer and Steinke, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the lines that show 15th Avenue there, that's what we've approved, that's how the developer will build it.
My belief too is that I thought there was some 15th Avenue itself. There was some ability of the builder to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of it was this was the map that was acceptable to them. But even with this map, I believe there was some choices that could be made between the developer and the landowner that would allow for the curve to slightly change depending on whether or not they wanted to aim straight for the middle or not.
And if I could read the specific language changes. Sure. It's any future development proposal for the Steinke property shall be judged upon its own merits if and when submitted, and shall not be bound by any shadow plat which has previously come before the city. This is the specific language that Mr. Steinke had requested.
Yeah, but the only thing I'm a little squishy on is I think we're doing a very good job of memorializing that Mr. Steinke is not bound. Mm-hmm. My concern is once the developer pours asphalt and curbs, Mr. Steinke's options start to get real limited.
Well, the project and the development concept plan defines where is it 15th Avenue? Is this 15th Avenue intersects with the Steinke property. That is set. It's what happens once that roadway enters the Steinke property. There were several alternatives that were presented to the council and to the planning commission and to the planning department over several months, so it's a number of iterations. And Mr. Steinke just wanted to make sure that none of those proposals would be considered set in stone, and that he would have an opportunity from the point that the street stub touches his property to define how the street will flow through his property. And that he would be submitting his plan, and you would be judging it, Planning Commission would be judging it on its own merits and not relating to any former subdivision plan that may have come to the city's counter.
Okay, so that's what answers really what my first question was. Exhibit 1 says this is where 15th Avenue will run.
Right.
So the stubs are as outlined.
The stubs
Now,
are as outlined, and it's what happens inside the Stenke
Very good.
property. He did not want to be bound by any previous map.
And so when he and Wenrick, when they decide what they want to do, we'll judge that on its own merits.
Yep,
My
we'll
only
see it
concern was
separately.
where those stubs touch his property. I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. And that was acceptable to the parties as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor? I move we approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law, rejecting the appeal and approving the subdivision application with specified amendment. Final order for the City of Canby, file number appeal APP 1802 of subdivision 1801, VAR 1801 decision.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law, rejecting the appeal and approving the subdivision application with specified amendment. Final order for City of Canby, file numbers appeal APP 18-02 of subdivision or sub 18-01 / VAR 18-01 decision. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I'm abstaining because I wasn't present for the appeal.
So that passes 5-0-1. Thank you. Great. City Administrator business and staff reports.
Yeah, 2 quick items. I did meet last week and took a Union Pacific Railroad representative on a tour of a railroad property traversing through the city of Canby, requesting that the railroad come into town and clean up the old railroad ties and police their area. He took pictures and indicated that he would bring all of this information in the city's request back to his boss and hope for some action on their part to facilitate and complete the cleanup process. I showed him not only the ties and the rails that were principally on the south side of the road, but we have a situation down at the end of First Avenue where we have a couple big piles, and we specifically went out there and walked that area as well. So he does have that in his record as a formal request for cleanup. Also like to note that that Amanda and I met yesterday with representatives of Direct Link, beginning early discussions about the possibility of installing Wi-Fi capabilities in some of our community parks. There is a potential for a grant that could fund a portion or all of the infrastructure requirements to bring that service into the park. And so what the city would be responsible for if we ultimately move forward with this project would be the monthly fees. There's the opportunity to control virtually every aspect of how much bandwidth each customer or each user gets, what kind of content they can look at, and we're able to use a splash page, advertising our events. So there are a lot of positive aspects to it. Very, very early discussions and trying to explore, first of all, what the needs would be, second, what the cost would be, and then determine if it's a feasible project or not. If it looks like it could work, you'll see this as part of the 2019-20 budget. The earliest that we'll know about the grant is about a year from now.
Thank you, Rick.
Very cool.
All right, second opportunity for citizen input. Not seeing anyone.
Nothing, Lena?
We'll move into action review.
You have approved the consent agenda. You've adopted ordinances 1489 and 1491. You've approved ordinance 1492 to come up for second reading on September 5th. And you've adopted the findings, conclusions, and final order for APP 18-02.
Great, thank you, Kim. And I don't believe we have an executive session this evening, so I will take a motion, to adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Hensley, seconded by Councilor Smith to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. We are adjourned. Good night, Canby. Thank you very much.